What's up everyone? Today I'm showing you how to approach the writing passage in the AP English Language Exam's multiple choice section. We're going to walk through a passage and sample questions together, so let's get started. The practice multiple choice section we're using today is from the College Board's AP Lang course and exam description. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Usually, you'll be given a passage and several questions that will ask you to revise the passage for grammar, style, word choice, etc. These questions will test your understanding of what makes a composition cohesive and well written. I like to skim the questions first, find line references in the questions, and quickly underline or circle those line references in the passage with the corresponding question number, as I've done right here. I also wrote the main idea or purpose of each body paragraph to help me understand how this piece is organized. You can pause this video now to read the passage on your own. Now, let's start tackling the questions. Question 9. Which of the following sentences, if placed before sentence 1, would both capture the audience's interest and provide the most effective introduction to the topic of the paragraph? The first option just lists when and where the orbiter, a spacecraft, was launched. It's not attention-grabbing, which the question asked for. B is more attention-grabbing because it describes the shock of NASA officials and makes the reader curious as to why the orbiter vanished. C doesn't even mention that the orbiter vanished, so there's no transition into the next sentence, which begins with after an unsuccessful search. This is why it's important to read the lines around the line reference in the question. Options D and E have a lot of unnecessary details that distract from the topic of the paragraph. Therefore, B is correct. Question 10. In sentence 2, reproduced below, the writer wants an effective transition from the introductory paragraph to the main idea of the passage. The culprit was a discrepancy in the software that controlled the spacecraft's thrusters. One team of engineers had calculated the force needed from the thrusters in pounds, an imperial unit, while another team calculated the force in newtons, a metric unit. Which of the following versions of the underlined text best achieves this purpose? We need to effectively transition from the introduction to the orbiter mission failure to a comparison of the metric and imperial measurement system. Option A, which does not require any changes, does describe the impact of the metric system on the orbiter's outcome. All of the other options don't mention the metric system. Instead, they talk about mismatched data, different engineering teams, software, and the types of thrusters. A is the best choice here. Question 11. In sentence 3, reproduced below, which of the following versions of the underlined text best establishes the writer's position on the main argument of the passage? The orbiter mission failure is just one reason, albeit an extremely expensive one, that the United States needs to abandon future Mars survey missions. The rest of the passage is an argument in favor of the metric system, so C is correct. The other options are not mentioned in the passage at all. Question 12. The writer wants to add a phrase at the beginning of sentence 5, reproduced below, adjusting the capitalization as needed to set up a comparison with the idea discussed in sentence 4. The imperial measurement used in the United States assigns values haphazardly. 1 mile is 5,280 feet long, while 1 pound is 16 ounces. Which of the following choices best accomplishes this goal? Sentence 4 explains that most countries use the metric system due to its simplicity, whereas sentence 5 shows that the imperial measurement system in the US is a lot more arbitrary and confusing. Whenever you're asked to choose a transition between two sentences, you should think about the relationship between them. The author has placed these sentences side by side to contrast the metric and imperial systems in order to prove that the metric system is better. Answer choice A, furthermore, could be used if we wanted to elaborate more on the previous sentence. For example, allows us to introduce supporting evidence, similarly begins a comparison, by contrast is quite literally meant to contrast or show differences, and in fact offers more emphasis and further information. Choice D is the correct one. Question 13. In sentence 9, reproduced below, the writer wants to provide a convincing explanation for why switching to the metric system would benefit United States industries. Switching to the metric system would also benefit United States industries. The European Union, for example, has been requiring its member states to standardize their metric systems since 1971. We need to make sure that the answer mentions a benefit for U.S. industries. Right now, the underlined portion is just listing a fact about the European Union's requirement for member states. Sentence B is a bold and extreme assumption about the metric system becoming the only measuring system. Whenever an answer choice includes superlatives about an object or idea being the best or the worst or the only one, examine it closely. It could be an unfounded assumption based on the rest of the passage. Additionally, choice B does not list any benefits of the metric system. Similar to option A, C just provides a fact rather than a benefit. Option D does mention a benefit, which is the reduction of product overlap and manufacturing inefficiencies. The answer choice as a whole also talks about U.S. industries with products in domestic and international markets, so this benefit is specific to U.S. industries. Choice E is yet another fact with no benefits mentioned, so the correct option is D. Question 14. The writer wants to add the following sentence to the third paragraph to provide additional explanation. This means that the United States must convert to metric units whenever it is dealing with the rest of the world. The phrase, "this means that," indicates that there should be a sentence before this one providing a reason for the U.S. to convert to metric units. If we were to place this sentence before sentence 6, it would be the first sentence in the paragraph. However, it's not really an appropriate topic sentence because it can't stand alone. It relies too heavily on the content that comes before. Sentence 6 explains that the U.S. is one of only a few countries that have not fully adopted the metric system. If we put our sentence after sentence 6, this would work because it would explain the impact of having a different system in the U.S. compared to almost every other country in the world. If we were to place the sentence after sentence 7, that would interrupt the transition to the example about the wrong dosing of medicine. The sentence would be out of place if positioned after sentences 8 or 9, so B is correct. Question 15. The writer wants to add more information to the third paragraph to support the main argument of the paragraph. All of the following pieces of evidence help achieve this purpose except which one? We need to ask, what is the main argument of the third paragraph? The argument is that switching to the metric system would generate benefits and eliminate errors. Options A, B, D, and E all support this argument. Option C, a quote from Thomas Jefferson's 18th century proposal for a new decimal system to standardize weights and measures, doesn't specifically refer to the metric system, so it's irrelevant. This is the correct answer choice. Question 16. In the fourth paragraph, the writer wants to expand on the concession that converting to the metric system may seem difficult. Which of the following claims would best achieve this purpose? Expand on the concession means that we want to choose the option that provides a more robust counterargument. Option A claims that the imperial system functions perfectly well. This is not a counterargument. It's just a statement with no supporting evidence, and it completely contradicts everything the author wrote earlier. A counterargument needs valid evidence or reasoning. Option B refers to previous attempts to adopt the metric system, but it does not mention any difficulties related to this. C has irrelevant information about the imperial system, and D also doesn't discuss any difficulties related to the U.S. changing to the metric system. E brings up a valid counterargument about the cost and confusion of changing to the metric system with examples, so this choice is correct. Question 17. In the fourth paragraph, the writer wants to provide further evidence to rebut the claim that converting to the metric system might be difficult. Which of the following pieces of evidence would best achieve this purpose? We need to address and refute any concerns raised in a counterargument. Thus, we need to demonstrate that converting to the metric system is actually not that difficult. A, B, and C all do not contain a rebuttal because none of them accomplish this goal. Option D provides a successful example of Great Britain converting to the metric system. Since Great Britain can do it, so can the US. This eases concerns surrounding any difficulties. Lastly, E actually supports the counterargument because it shows that changing the metric system would be very difficult since it would cost millions to change the units on highway signs. This is not a rebuttal. Choice D is correct. Here's a review of the strategies I recommend for the writing passage. Underline line references in the passage and write the corresponding question number next to those references. Look at the sentences before and after the line reference for clues. Write a list of transition words and when they are applicable. Practice using different types of punctuation, commas, colons, semicolons, dashes, parentheses, etc. Practice identifying the main idea of each paragraph, and flag sentences that seem out of place in the passage during your first read. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments, tell me the types of questions that trip you up the most in the AP Lang multiple choice portion, and I'll give you any tips that I have. Take a look at my other tutorial on how to approach the reading passage in the multiple choice section. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap the bell. I'm Miss Peer Editor, and I'll see you next time.